video is for the literal equations and multivariable equations. So in situations like this, we're not necessarily solving for a value, we're solving for a letter. So in number 1 here, you see it says solve for W. So the goal of this is to get W on a side by itself. So you're going to work the same process as you would for any equation to get W on a side by itself. So W is being multiplied by L. So to get rid of that L, you would divide both sides by L. So then your answer would be, so this L would cancel that L. So you would have W equals area divided by the length. Same thing here. It says solve for H. Let me focus really quick, guys. Okay. So same thing. I want to get H by itself. So it's being multiplied by B. So I would divide both sides by B. So these would cancel here. So I would have H equals the area divided by the base. All right, and this next one, it says solve for T. So I want T by itself. It's being multiplied by R. So I would divide both sides by R. So this R cancels here. So T would equal D divided by R. Here I've got solve for T. So in this one, T is being multiplied by P and R, principal and the rate. So I can divide that whole side by both at one time. So these cancel here. So I'd be left with T equals interest divided by the principal and the rate. All right, this one's the same way. Solve for H. So it's being multiplied by the length and the width. So I can divide both sides by the length and the width. These cancel. So H equals volume divided by length times width. All right, and this one we're going to solve for R, which is the radius. R is being multiplied by 2 pi. So we're going to divide by 2 pi. So these cancel. So R equals the circumference divided by 2 pi. All right, down here we're going to solve for C. So you can see that C, S is being subtracted from it. So to move this, we would just add S to both sides. So I would have C equals M plus S. And what I'm doing is I'm just rearranging, guys. So if you wanted to work this out like a regular equation, these would cancel and you'd be left with M plus S equals C. I'm just flipping them around so that the variable I'm solving for comes first. All right, and this one we're going to solve for pi. So pi is being multiplied by radius squared. So we can divide by radius squared. So I'd be left with pi. These cancel. Area divided by radius squared. Here I'm solving for M. Now M is being divided by V, so we would multiply by V. So we would multiply this side by V. So these would cancel. So M would equal V times D. All right. Some more on the back. So here we're going to solve for H. So this one's a little bit different. H is being multiplied by 1/2 B. So I can divide by 1/2 B on both sides. But what happens here when you divide by a fraction, it's the same thing. So when you divide by a fraction, it's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So when I work this one out, so H is going to equal 2A divided by B. So again, just to kind of show you, if I did 4 divided by 1/2, okay? So I'll show you on the calculator too, so you can kind of see what's going on here. 4 divided by 1/2. It's the same thing as me multiplying by 2. And so again, the reciprocal is when you flip the fraction on its head. So if I would have 2/3, the reciprocal would be 3/2. You just completely flip the fraction. So really watch that with these ones with fractions if you want them in the simplest terms. So here we're going to solve for B. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1/3 H. But again, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So B here would equal 3V divided by H. All right, and this one we're going to solve for M. So we're going to do this one in two pieces. So first we're going to get rid of the 2 on the bottom, this denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. So I would have 2K equals MV squared. Then to get rid of the V squared, I would divide both sides by the V squared. So this would cancel. So I would have M equals 2K divided by V squared. And you can do these the same way. So I'm going to work that one problem again for you just so you can see it if you would work it in 2 steps. So 1/2 base height. Then I'm solving for H. So let's get rid of the 1/2 first. So to get rid of a half, we would multiply by 2. So this and this would cancel. So I would have 2A equals base times height. Then I can divide both sides by B. These cancel, so I'd be left with H equals 2A divided by B. So if you want to do it in 2 steps, get rid of the fraction first. Do it that way for sure. All right, in this next one, we're solving for B. So again, I want to get rid of this denominator first. So I'm going to multiply both sides by D. So here I would have A times D equals B plus C. C is being added to B, so I would subtract it from both sides. So I would be left with B equals AD minus C. All right, in the next one, we're solving for W. So I'm going to get rid of this part first, the 2L. So I'm going to subtract 2L from both sides. So I have P minus 2L. This cancels, equals 2W. Now I can divide by the 2. So the same steps as the equations, we're thinking doing PEMDAS backwards, the adding and subtracting first, then the multiplying and dividing. So I can divide both sides by 2. This would cancel. So I'd be left with W equals P minus 2L divided by 2. All right, in this one, we're going to solve for Y. So I'm going to move the AX away from that Y first. So we're going to subtract AX from both sides. BY equals C minus AX. Be really careful with that sign as well. You could write negative AX plus C. Just be really careful when you have those subtraction signs. And then to get the Y by itself, we're going to divide both sides by B. So I would be left with Y equals C minus AX divided by B. All right, now we're going to solve for X. So I'm going to get rid of the B, move the B first. So I'm going to subtract the B from both sides. So Y minus B equals MX. Then I can divide both sides by M. This cancels. So X would equal Y minus B divided by M. All right, here we're going to solve for T. So I'm going to get rid of this P first. So I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So I've got A minus P equals PRT. So this is interest, compound interest in this one. Now I want T by itself, so I've got to divide by the PR. So this is going to get canceled. So T is going to equal A minus P divided by P times R. All right, here we're going to solve for A. So what I can do here, instead of working this out, I can divide this whole side by N, and this will cancel. But if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other, and that is an S. So I would have S divided by N equals A plus 1, and then I can subtract the 1 from both sides. So A would equal, okay, so I have S over N minus 1. So I would write S over N minus 1. So again, just be really careful with that addition and subtraction. So this is a really common one that you have to flip around. This is going from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we're going to solve for Fahrenheit here. So first thing we're going to do is get rid of this fraction. So again, to get rid of a fraction, you're just going to multiply by the reciprocal. And so this 5 will cancel this 5, this 9 will cancel this 9. So you would have 9/5 C equals F minus 32. And then we would just add the 32 to both sides. So F would equal 9/5 C plus 32. All right, and then in this last one, this one's got a lot of steps. So we're going to solve for B1. This is what we're solving for here. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of this fraction. So this cancels, this cancels. So now I have 2a equals h times b1 plus b2. Now I'm going to get rid of the h, so I'm going to divide both sides by the h. So these cancel, so now I've got 2a divided by h equals b1 plus b2, and then I'm going to subtract the b2 from both sides. So b1 would equal 2a divided by h minus b2. So that's it for this video.